Rachel, you guys still working from home then, yeah?
Yeah, I'm fine, hopefully easily enough. Well, as you can see, obviously I'm not Jim, and Jim is sending his apologies today. So on behalf of Jim, I'm welcoming everybody and sending Jim's apologies. He's unfortunately sick today, and he would be really, really annoyed, I have to say, to be missing this, because this is one of his favourite events. And he is the brains behind the whole WISHNI and the man with the ideas. And you always know when Jim says, I've had something ticking over in my head, that he's on to something. And the Wish Ambassador, the Student Ambassador Awards was one of those. And it really is one of his favourite events. And if I could just extend the committee and our the group, the forums, well wishes for him. Hopefully he'll be back for the next one, and I'm sure he'll be catching up with us after this to find out how it went. And I think it's actually recording, so he probably will be watching it. So Jim, get well soon, and we miss you. And when he said to me, could I step in as deputy, there'll be nothing to it, it's just a formality. I didn't realize it, get threw in at the deep end, but anyway, there we go. So welcome to everybody, and in particular to Robert Kidd, Chief Executive from HSENI, who obviously are dealing with very challenging times at the moment. And thank you to Robert for taking time out of his busy schedule to not only present the awards for us today, but also he's given us a keynote speech as well. So thank you. And there's loads of people here to thank, but Ursula from the uni for arranging the awards, and for the students, I can't wait to hear the presentation from the winner, and also the breakout sessions that we have. So we'll have Nicola and David and Elaine all facilitating the breakout sessions, so really looking forward to that. And Atlas, who facilitate this every time, every WISH meeting. And saving the best to the end, Michael, don't worry. Thanks especially to McKinstry, Skip and Hare, who have sponsored the event to the tune, I think there's two prizes, 150 and £50. So I believe, Michael, the money's with you, and it is your birthday tomorrow, and the pub's open on Friday. So we'll arrange the practicalities of getting the prizes to the students, hopefully soon after the events today. So we do have a wee agenda, and I'm not sure, Rachel, if everybody received that, but I'll run through it very, very quickly here, just to outline what the event.
I'll share the screen here as well.
Oh yeah, okay.
So, yeah, I do.
Yeah, we've 5-10 minutes here, introductions, and Robert's going to give the keynote speech, and then Robert is kindly going to present the awards. Then we have a presentation from our winner, and then this is when it gets really technical, right? Okay, I can deal with it until then, but then we're going in for the breakout rooms. So I think I have a wee note here to say that you'll be receiving a notification pop-up box on what your assigned breakout room is. And if you just hit the later button, and then when it comes to the breakout session, we'll have the option along the bottom to then enter your breakout room. So I'm confident that between Pete and Rachel and the technical expertise, and let's face it, we'll have a room of students here as well. So hopefully we'll be able to work that all out. So the three breakout speakers are facilitated by David Donnelly from Regen, and from Elaine Kelly from Health and Safety Westland Horticulture, and Nicola Penman from Nicola Penman Training. So all experts in their field, and very kindly given up their time to facilitate these. So the way it's going to work is we'll all get a chance to go into each breakout session, and then that should take us sort of just depending, maybe 10-15 up to 20 minutes max per breakout room, and then back just to finish the formalities, and hopefully finish sometime after half 3, 3:45 today. So just before we begin, do we have any questions, or does that cover everything? Any questions about the agenda or anything? Okay, well then without further ado, if we would just welcome then Robert Kidd from Health and Safety Executive Northern Ireland for the keynote speech. Thank you, Robert, for giving up your time.
Thank you, Jennifer, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you once again. Just as we were chatting at the start there, as people were logging in, it has been a bizarre year for all of us. For the student members among us, this is something you guys are probably all very familiar with because you're doing so much remote learning at the minute. For the older members, or should I say the more experienced members among us, think of this as being like the Eurovision Song Contest, where we're joining from all over the place. And it's something a little bit different. Or if you want to be really glamorous, it can be the Oscars. So firstly, a word of thank you to WISHNI for inviting me back. You're gluttons for punishment. And thank you to McKinstry Skip Hire for sponsoring the event and for supporting it. I think this means we're allowed to send Michael our invoices for a takeaway lunch and a coffee, and he's going to foot the bill. So, a big thanks to Michael. Special word of thanks to the WISH team, to Jennifer and to Rachel, and to wish Jim all the best from the team in HSE and I as well, and we'll wish him a speedy recovery. I'm sure, as Jennifer has said, he's raging that he can't be online today himself. So hopefully he'll be back to full speed. Thanks to everyone for giving up their time, because in the organisation of these events, even whether it's a physical event or a virtual event, there's a lot of work goes into them. So thank you very much to everyone who's been working in the background to make the event happen. And I hope everyone enjoys it. For the students, there's a great opportunity. The speakers in the breakout sessions have a lot of experience, and do give them a hard time and ask them lots of tough questions, because that's what they're there for. And thanks too for Ursula for her support and for pushing all of you as students to do so well. When I look back, one of the things I see, a number of the students are on LinkedIn. I've seen a number of people posting their photographs that they've made the Dean's List, and I think that's a really big achievement. Makes me feel old, but it's a great achievement for you guys that you're doing so well, and it sets a really good standard for the future as you move into your career path. When I think back to last year, hard to believe that in March 2020 at Malone House we had the last meeting, or the last WISH Awards for the student ambassadors, and little did we know that about a week or so later we were going to go into the first lockdown, and life would never be the same again. Certainly it hasn't returned to being the same. So many unprecedented changes, the uncertain times that laid ahead. Conversation moved to talking about a virus we knew very little about. In the short days following, we had the restrictions. We've had impacts on our lives, both in work and personally. Things have changed very dramatically for all of us. I'm sure many of the folks here will appreciate, and when I say I've never used video or telephone conferencing as much as I did probably in March, April and May last year, when we were just suddenly thrown into not being back in the office. And that has been a huge challenge. It's been great to see, in the recent months, we've obviously seen some progress. We've had the speedy rollout of the vaccination, which is fantastic. And as restrictions are starting to ease now, it's great that we can start to see family and friends again. And I look forward, and I'm hoping that this time next year, we'll all actually be back to meeting face to face. The challenge for the past year has posed, not just at home, but also in the workplace. Adapting to change and living in what we are collectively terming the new normal has not bypassed the waste and recycling sector. While some staff can carry out their duties from home, this is not true for many in the waste and recycling sector. As a key industry, the sector has provided an essential role throughout the pandemic. It is a sector which is essential to society, and one which has had to adapt its working methods, its procedures, and its controls in order to continue its vital day-to-day operations. Many members here today will be only too familiar, if not tired of hearing the phrase social distancing, a phrase which has resulted in each of us having to keep our distance from one another. Despite the requirements, the sector has adapted its working methods to ensure a continuation of service provision across the province. Collaboration and sharing of ideas, both amongst waste operators and through the WISHNI forum, has proven that whilst we are physically distanced, we've also still been present and working together to safeguard our health, protect our jobs, and deliver the essential services that the sector provides. In achieving these aims, each member here deserves credit for the hard work and resilience they have demonstrated during these recent times and for those which may still lie ahead of us. For many of us, and I include HSE and I, we will have just passed our 1-year anniversary of remote working. These have certainly been challenging times and have affected the way in which we as an organisation operate. Changes have had to be put in place very quickly, with new information and guidance being generated at times on an almost daily basis. It can sometimes seem as though changes to our working practice have been fast-paced, while the world around us has almost paused. The provision of waste management services and collections do not lend themselves easily to maintaining social distancing. Crew collections, waste sorting lines, and recycling activities all encompass some aspects of close contact between employees. Our HSE and I inspectors have been hugely encouraged by the new and innovative range of control measures that have been observed whilst visiting a number of your work premises. Investment and innovation in adapting to restrictions has been observed through a range of control measures, including enhanced cleaning regimes, changes to work processes, the introduction of additional welfare facilities, and the use of additional vehicles to keep waste collections going. These are only to name but a few. Who again would have thought that a little over a year ago that we would be cleaning vehicles with fogging machines, having to wear a mask to go into a shop or an office, and to sanitize our hands every time we enter a building. Our daily lives have changed by necessity, and our work methods have been impacted too. I congratulate each and every business within the sector on their adaptability during the recent times, and encourage you all to continue to collaborate and communicate even whilst apart. It's further encouraging to note that despite the pandemic, there's been no interruption to the WISHNI forum, with presentations, guidance, and discussions continuing on a virtual platform. And I'm grateful to Justine for all the work that she does, both in the WISH forum and also along with Brian Price in supporting the waste and extractive industry sector. As I said at the beginning, it's a huge pleasure to be able to join you all again and to celebrate the success of our student ambassadors and the future of what is a really exciting industry. When many of us think back to what the waste industry was, it primarily meant to lift the household or business waste from a bin and to transport it to landfill. Even at council amenity sites, there was little attempt to sort, and many skips were simply full of household waste of wood, metals, glass, plastics, and electricals. Gradually, things progressed to separating things out, and of course, legislation has driven some of this alongside the innovation of the sector. Targets to reduce landfill have been put in place. Rising costs of some precious materials and the desire from manufacturers to be seen as having green credentials have all driven the recycling sector. I found a really good article by an author guy called Matt Bradbury, and in 2017 he wrote an article just on the timeline of recycling, and I just want to highlight a few things in it because I thought it was really fascinating. He starts by saying that the earliest signs of waste management are thought to date back to around 500 BC. Now, I can say I wasn't around in that time, thankfully, but that what they said was that in 500 BC, there was a local law which was introduced in Athens, which meant that any waste had to be deposited at least 1 mile outside of the city wall. So that was kind of our first moving of waste away from where people lived. Recycling of paper is something that has been going on for hundreds of years. Recycling of cloths and textiles. In wars such as the American War of Independence in 1776 and in the World Wars, there were huge drives to recycle materials to assist the war effort. At the turn of the 20th century, New York had what they called picking yards, where waste was dropped off and sorted by hand for recycling. So you can imagine how pleasant a job that was. A short time later, in the early 1900s, the first American aluminium recycling plants, or for the Americans, aluminum recycling plants were opened. Then following the Great Depression of the 1930s and the war effort of the 1940s, we saw the emergence of what we probably refer to now as the throwaway society. Single-use products, plastics were becoming much more widely used. And this really was the start of things where we started to build the amount of waste that we all generate. In the 1960s then, we saw the introduction of the reduce, reuse, recycle, and the little triangle, which we're all very familiar with. It's on the back of so many products and certainly food packets and things. So that has actually been around since the 1960s. And then the 1970s, we started to see the start of recycling facilities and things like bottle deposit schemes to encourage people to recycle glass. Household recycling boxes began in the USA in the mid-1980s. And one which actually fascinated me, because when I read it, I remember this, and sadly it means I am old. But for some of you, you may remember back when you went into McDonald's and you got your Big Mac or your Quarter Pounder burger, it came in a styrofoam box. And I was horrified when I read that McDonald's actually discontinued the styrofoam box and went for recycled cardboard back in 1990, so more than 30 years ago. And that was actually to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Earth Day, which for that year was focusing on recycling efforts. And that was McDonald's contribution. So by the mid-1990s then, recycling was widely practiced and was being encouraged. We saw the introduction in the industry of things like infrared sorting machines to help separate waste on an industrial scale. Recycling schemes through homes, so different bins, different recycling boxes, began to bloom across different councils and local authorities. And then by the mid-2000s, with the boom in consumer electronics, we started to see much more widespread recycling of technology products such as PCs, monitors, and other electricals to recover the precious metals. Now in the media, we see a drive to reduce the amount of waste that is being shipped abroad for disposal or recycling because of the costs and the impact on the environment of the shipping. So we've progressed to reducing the amount of waste we produce in the first place. We separate many products at source, and waste handling facilities have become hugely complex and specialized, and that's testament to some of you guys here today and the industries that you operate in. And as that complexity and the scale of the machines that you operate and work with, there's a demand there to ensure that you have a safe working environment for all of your staff. And then as students, each of the students will be aware from what you've been learning through your course that you've chosen an industry which I believe has a great future. There are targets from all fronts to reduce pollution. The sector is very innovative and forward-looking, and I think this is something which is only going to continue for many years to come. So what is today all about? Today is about recognising and rewarding this year's WISHNI Student Ambassador. HSE&I has always given its support to the WISHNI Awards, and we see great value in them and the values which WISHNI and the forum promote. The aim of WISH is to identify, devise and promote activities to improve industry health and safety standards. By encouraging and rewarding students for their work focused on this sector, we aspire to encourage the younger generation to consider roles within an ever-growing industry. I've had the opportunity to see at firsthand the projects of the winner and the runner-ups submissions, and I know the standard is consistently high because I've seen them now for the last 3 years. Many of you, as I mentioned, have achieved a place on the Dean's List, and congratulations for that, because it is a big achievement. The standard of the students, and I know from speaking to Ursula previously, the standard of people on the course has always been consistently high, and it makes the decision for the panel incredibly difficult to pick winners because the standard is just so close across everyone. But following the panel's deliberations, I'm delighted to announce that Jordan McKee, a second-year student studying environmental health at the University of Ulster, Jordanstown, has been awarded this year's first place. So congratulations to Jordan. And I am also delighted then to say that Rachel Marks has achieved second place. So congratulations to Rachel. Again, a brilliant achievement and two really good submissions from each of you. This year, the students were asked to prepare a paper entitled Controlling the Hazards and Risks Associated with Powerful Machinery Used in the Waste Industry. I've had the opportunity, pardon me, to read the submissions from both of you who achieved your first and runner-up award, and I was really impressed with the detail of the papers. You covered so many of the different aspects. You covered the risks and all of the factors from the machinery and the vehicles. You covered the legislation and the imperative to make a safe environment. And you also talked about some of the potential for the future. And you talked about the materials that are being processed and the need to prevent risks from those materials just as they're being managed and handled, so that people aren't inhaling either toxic fumes and dust and things. And those are all hugely important within the industry. Vehicles were identified as a significant risk, and in recent years we've seen major incidents resulting from vehicle versus pedestrian incidents, particularly with refuse collection vehicles. The waste industry, it's probably fair to say, has a higher risk than most sectors using large vehicles, because in the waste recycling sector, obviously there is a need for the operators to be in very close proximity to the vehicle when it's moving to collect waste. So that makes the assessment of risk and the mitigation measures more critical than anywhere else. Then when we get to the recycling centres and waste handling facilities, static plant that is used, again, there's a number of very key risks. Conveyor systems, crushers, macerators, shredders, and balers, all with a huge potential to afford very serious injury to operators if they're not used appropriately. And then when you add to that within the environment, the potential for dust, for fumes, for heat, or potential fire, it becomes a very challenging working environment indeed. The hazards then must of course be appropriately managed, and where the risk cannot be removed, automation, guarding, segregation of the worker from the machines, isolation where an interaction must occur for servicing or clearing a blockage are all critical factors. Training too for all staff and not just those operating, so that if anyone is coming through the facility and sees an accident or an incident, they know exactly where the emergency stop buttons are. I think of it as being a bit like in the event of a fire. You know, everyone knows a fire evacuation plan, and you don't all go looking for the fire marshal to ask what's the safe way to leave the building. It's imperative that everyone who might be in the building knows how to stop the machines if there is an issue. Collaboration was something which was mentioned in the submissions as well, and I think that again is hugely important. The collaboration between the sectors. It's not about knowledge is power and trying to hide that knowledge. There's a lot of sharing within the industry, and I think that has benefited everyone within the sector. And the fact that the WISHNI exists is a tribute to the success and the key players of the industry and their willingness to come together and make the industry safer. And I would absolutely applaud everyone for that and thank them for their efforts. HSE and I work with health practitioners, and we seek to raise awareness of long-term exposure to fumes, dust, chemicals, and vibration, and all of the long-term conditions which can cause life-limiting conditions. And again, within the industry, we've seen so many changes, and some of those have been relatively simple changes, just things like water suppression systems to suppress dust on conveyors and things, but they're all hugely effective in keeping people safer and improving their health. In Rachel's submission, then, she also mentioned the likelihood of fatal accident in the waste industry, which she quotes as being 18 times higher than in any other industry. And that is hugely shocking when you think about it, that one industry is 18 times more likely to create a fatality in the workplace than others. It shows just the significance and the risks that exist within the industry. She also mentioned things like nip points, where people working alongside conveyors could be caught or dragged in where something has moving belts, rollers, chains, or maybe not properly guarded or caged. So again, all of those factors within the industry are hugely important. And then the other thing, which I think probably goes a little bit unmentioned sometimes, is the risk of musculoskeletal disorders, where operators are having to continually stretch or bend in a particular way repeatedly to a machine. And in the short term, that might be just a dull ache or an occasional pain, but can of course lead to something more serious and chronic after years of repeated stretching or bending. So legislation exists to manage health and safety through suitable risk assessment and an explanation of where the duty rests to provide a safe system of works. There is of course the duty on every individual to look after themselves and ensure that they do nothing to put their colleagues at risk. The need to prevent careless mistakes through rushing or cutting corners is so critical as well. I look forward to hearing later from our student ambassador, Jordan, as she discusses with her paper, and to give an overview of these risks and how they can be effectively controlled. Each year, the WISH Awards ceremony gives students the opportunity to liaise and to network with waste professionals attending the event. The committee have made no exception in providing this opportunity today, and we have our 3 industry professionals who will be looking after the workshops later on. And again, I say a huge thank you to them and the opportunity to ask questions and to chat about their experiences. So just really in bringing things to a close, I'd like to congratulate again Jordan and Rachel. 2 brilliant submissions, and I really enjoyed, and it's something that really impresses me when you read something from someone young who hasn't actually been in the sector yet, but they are appreciating what the risks are, and that's hugely important for someone going into the sector. And I hope this is maybe where you're thinking about your future career paths. I want to look at the industry in a positive light, because I think this is an industry which has really turned itself around over a number of years. The work that has been done, I've already referred to the work of WISH and the support that it gets from the industry, and that is absolutely critical. So thank you to all who work in the industry and who support it and who support increasing health and safety standards. And to each of the students, I would say, continue to work hard, enjoy your chosen career path, and strive to ensure that whatever you do, you can make a difference. Because I think for many here, this is something they will say, hand on heart, whatever you do, it makes a difference. And it helps people in their future, and actually, in some cases, helps people who may not have had a future had it not been for the work of some of these health and safety professionals. And I look forward to hopefully next year when we can actually be in the room together, enjoy a cup of coffee together, and a scone or a bun. So thank you all for your time, and congratulations to both Jordan and Rachel.
Thank you.
Like virtual clap there. I think there, I was trying to find the reaction. There is a clap reaction and a wee festive one there too. So many congratulations to Jordan and Rachel for that. And I believe we're going to be hearing from Jordan in a second. So just to take this opportunity once again to thank Robert. Thanks very much for that. And that was really interesting, actually, the bit about the timeline on all the critical points in the history of waste, and also the wee point about McDonald's there. It's quite significant in that they've just announced now that they're ceasing the plastic toys in the kids' meals, so they're being replaced by I believe paper and recyclable, the likes of books, I suppose, that they'll be doing. And I just wonder in a few hundred years' time, will we be on that timeline, the early 2020s, not just for COVID, but for significant times in the history of waste. And I know there's great things happening. There's consultations out at the moment about the future of many types of particularly single-use plastic wastes, and there's proposals for bans on a number of those, and also reforming the producer responsibility, and there's consultation out at the moment on deposit return schemes. So I'm sure everybody here is well familiar, but if you're not, particularly for the students, have a wee look at those. They're on the DEFRA websites, but they will affect Northern Ireland and in particular how we manage waste. So all really interesting, and thank you very much, Robert. And we'll talk a wee bit at the end just about how we'll get the awards to you both. But I believe Jordan is now going to give us a presentation on the winning submission. So I'm not able to share slides, Jordan. Are you going to talk us through it? Or?
Yes, let me just see if I can try to get up the PowerPoint. I'm not too sure where about to go to get it up. Yeah.
Don't me just to share it because I have it here up.
Could you, please?
Yeah, that's no problem. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Is it
Yes.
coming up?
Yes, yep.
Oh, just went away there.
Ian,
Disappeared.
we had it there, Rachel, for a second. Oh, I think it's back again.
Goes back.
Yes.
That's it now.
And is that moving on the screen okay for everybody? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. There you go, Jen.
Yeah. So, hello, my name is Jordan McKee, and I am a second year environmental health student. Today I'm going to discuss the key findings of my report, which was controlling the hazards and risks associated with powerful machinery used in the waste industry. So a brief introduction: the waste industry is one of the highest risk industries in the UK, with a significant accident and fatality rate. In the year 2019 to 20, there were a total of 5 fatal injuries in the waste industry. Over the previous 5 years, there has been a total of 9, meaning the previous year has counted for over half of the total. Ultimately, to control or eliminate a hazard, it requires participation across all duty holders, from the stage of designing the machine to the moment the machine is being used. According to Pure 1998, duty holders, employers, and anyone who has control of their equipment are to take practical steps to ensure safe use of the equipment. Effective management of health and safety is key to controlling hazards and risks in the waste industry. Rarely one-off interventions are successful in achieving adequate safety. Therefore, a systematic and sustained approach is necessary. Risk assessment is a fundamental process which can assist in controlling the risks. It helps employers to identify potential hazards, assess and evaluate the risks so appropriate action can be taken to handle them. Identifying the hazards is the most crucial step in a risk assessment, as unless hazards are firstly identified, risk mitigating strategies cannot be taken to address or manage the risks before they do occur. Types of hazards and risks include compactor machines and waste balers. They are used to compress different materials for recycling. They pose hazards of being crushed from the main compaction ram and risk of amputation injuries from closing lids. Conveyors are used within the waste industry for transporting waste to the verge with baling machines. Conveyors carry hazards such as getting entrapped from moving parts and risk of injury to limbs and fingers from the nip points of the conveyor belt. Shredder machines are also used to cut waste materials into smaller particles. The rotating parts create an entanglement hazard, and the sharp blades present risk of skin becoming stabbed and finger amputations. So after all the hazards and risks have been identified, employers should assess who is likely to be harmed and how. This will enable employers to decide on appropriate control measures to minimize the risks identified to the lowest level possible. The hierarchy of controls will be the most effective way to control hazards and risks. It starts by seeking to eliminate the hazard. The best time to eliminate or remove a machinery hazard is at the design stage. By redesigning or reorganizing a piece of machinery, the hazard can be easily removed and the overall safety can be improved. If the hazard cannot be removed or it is not reasonably practicable, then it should be substituted or replaced with safer parts, materials, or even less hazardous machinery to minimize the risks. Engineering controls will be the next best approach to safeguard a machine and isolate the hazard from the workers. These include emergency stop buttons, lockout systems, barrier guards and gates. Following the implementation of the necessary engineering controls, employers should then seek to enact administrative controls to mitigate any remaining risks. Such controls include good practices such as abstaining employees from overloading balers and compactors, restricting use to only those that are qualified to use the machine safely, and developing safe procedures for when control systems fail or when mistakes do occur. Under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, employers will have a general duty to maintain and provide safe systems of work so far as reasonably practicable, safe and without risks to health. After all the control measures have been taken, only then should PPE be used as a control to protect employees. Such equipment include hard hats, slip-resistant footwear, and heavy-duty gloves. Under the Personal Protective Equipment at Work Regulations 1992, employers will be required to provide suitable equipment to employees that are exposed to risks while at work. In conclusion then, the waste industry is an extremely high-risk area, which poses risk of severe injuries and fatal accidents to employees and others in the workplace. Ensuring machine safety is essential to protect employees and others at the workplace. All the duty holders are responsible for controlling hazards and risks, but primarily employers. The elimination of hazards is the most effective approach to control risks, followed by substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and finally PPE. Using such control measures cannot guarantee absolute safety, but the risks can be greatly reduced if implemented effectively. Thank you.
Great job, Jordan. That's fantastic.
Well done, Jordan. That was brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Being one of a few of us on the WISH forum were judges, and just the quality of the submission, it was just so high, and I just want to extend that to Ursula for the sheer excellence of all the submissions that we get in, and Jordan, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some real startling facts there about the waste industry in terms of incidents and fatalities, and as you've rightly pointed out, it's a very, very high risk industry, and with over, I think it's over 5,500 employees within that industry in Northern Ireland. It's huge, and you've just obviously demonstrated there everyone has a role to play, not just the employers, but it's everyone within this, I should say, sector that we're all in.
Yeah.
So thank you, and
Thank you.
thank you again, Ursula. There's a wee thank you coming in on the chat there, Robert. Thanks. So we were just at the start there, we're having a chat before we go on about the breakout rooms. Actually, does anybody want to ask Jordan any questions, or Robert, while we've got him here, if there's any questions, if you do a shout out or put your hand up, or no? Okay, I think is it because we're all so keen to get into the next session. We were just having a wee chat. We had expected a few more students to join us, and we had designed the breakout rooms in such a way that it would be of benefit to the students, that we would have smaller rooms, that that you wouldn't be afraid to speak and ask questions and the like, and hopefully not feel intimidated by a larger group. But I think we only have a couple of you on, so we were wondering, should we just do one big session and maybe take 10 minutes each for Nicola and David and Elaine to talk? Putting it out to the floor there. What do you think?
I mean, I'm happy with that. Yeah,
I'm fine.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep, sounds fine.
That's okay. Okay. A message there from Michael: invoices for everyone's lunch, please send it.
Yes, it'll be in the pile, in the bottom of the pile.
I think it's very nice of Michael to be given the prizes out of his birthday money next week. That shut you up, Michael.
I'm actually sitting here, and Howard, if any of you remember Howard Wilson, Howard's sitting beside us over here. And in here, we always have a birthday card, and everybody has to sign the card. Card goes to me earlier. Whose birthday is it tomorrow?
Give it away.
And he says, and he goes, I was told, don't tell Michael it's Michael's birthday. What does he come out with? Who was out of this for?
I think he deserves to buy all the buns then, Michael. It's his job to buy the buns.
I'm in my own office up here. There's cake bought and it's for the birthday person. Who's the only person who doesn't get cake?
It's not good for you.
Exactly.
Oh dear. Well, I believe, Rachel, you're going to facilitate the, so it's one breakout, so we're not even calling it a breakout session then. So if we give each of our, the breakout leaders, that's Nicola, David and Elaine, if we take maybe 10 minutes each then, as long as you three are happy with this, we kind of feel
Yeah.
like it might be a better way to go than the smaller groups.
Perfect.
Yeah, of course.
That's perfect.
Yeah, okay, Rachel, will I hand over to you then?
Yeah, does David or Elaine want to go first? Does someone want to
Yeah.
volunteer? Will I just put someone on the spot?
No, it's 100%. I don't mind.
No worries, David.
I feel sorry
Thank
for all
you.
you guys having to listen to me rattle on for 10 minutes. That is a hazard, all right. Like, but
I had just put together a couple of informal leading questions, just that I was thinking from the student's perspective that they would be most interested to hear about. I just know whenever I was a student, I thoroughly enjoyed hearing how everybody had got to, where they are in their career, where they'd worked before, what sort of challenges they'd overcome. So I just have a few questions here. Obviously the first one to start them up with, how did you end up with a career in health and safety?
Okay. Well, my path into health and safety is probably a wee bit unique in the sense that I started out as an operative. I worked for possibly about 10 years as an operative. But at 20 years of age, I was involved in a serious workplace accident involving contacting machinery, becoming trapped in the machine. My right hand was crushed and I lost the tops of some fingers. Now, I continued to work on as an operative after the healing process for another 6 odd years. Now, luckily enough, my father, he was already a health and safety professional and had actually just branched out on his own. So for me to come into health and safety, I started learning from him really. And, it was a JMD training. I was doing a wee bit in the background. After a couple of years, I did my knee bosh, trained the trainer, my assessor award, and a few different bits and pieces. I then had to get out and put it in practice. So I took a hiatus from JMD training and I took a health and safety manager job up at a construction company. I spent a lot of time in construction. In my younger years, the industry where I was working when I had my accident was the structural steel industry. So it was something that was quite an easy fit for me. And from there then, after probably, 3 years then working in the construction industry as a health and safety professional, I had to go back to JMD. My father had taken a turn and I needed a wee bit of support there, health-wise. Lo and behold, that man, he was back to work in 2 weeks. So he was. So, you can't stop him. But yeah, I spent another 3-4 years in the training room. And, a young man like myself, I felt that I had a lot to offer on the ground in practice, putting the health and safety in practice. And yeah, that's what took me to Regen. So I was very lucky the timing that this opportunity came around. Regen's a fantastic company. It's a great company, great family-run company. They care greatly about the people that work for them, and we put a lot of effort in and spend a lot of time and resources trying to have as safe a workplace as we can. Now, I suppose one of the things about the waste industry is, for me, coming from a construction background, you're talking most dangerous work environments, agriculture, waste industry, construction. You can certainly see, the additional hazards that you're dealing with in the waste facility, in the waste sector. For example, like me and Jambo, we put together like a health and safety campaign this year, focused on the most topics-wise, most common types of fatal accidents, and then the most common types of non-fatal accidents. So what we're doing is each month taking a different topic and running toolbox talks, plant operator safety workshops, posters, you name it, whatever we're doing to sort of promote this hazard and how to stay safe from it. And what you find is when you look at the most common types of fatalities or the most common types of accidents, we're faced with them all in the waste industry. We deal with every single one of them. So it's a high risk industry, and what we really need is more of the next generation coming in and showing us the way. More bodies on the ground, but it is a great industry to be in. You get great support from the likes of the Wish people. Certainly Jim I rely on heavily, and the advice of Justine and Brian is invaluable. So it's a very small industry, everybody knows everybody, but it's a great one to be part of. Especially with the developments in the industry currently. I suppose from there, maybe just open it up. Rachel's another question there, maybe for me.
Perfect. Thank you, David. It's interesting to hear, I suppose, whenever you've got that personal background, that you have a bit more enthusiasm and dedication, I suppose, to the job role. I had sort of put there a question about, relating it back to obviously the student topic for 2021. It was obviously on dangerous machinery. I was just wondering if there was anything that stood out for you in terms of had you any incidents involving dangerous machinery, or if anything comes up on site, and how you manage that in Reading?
Yes, well, look, rightly so. The topic that was chosen is very important. Contact with moving vehicles, fire hazard, contact with machinery. These are our big fears out there. And as I say, contact with machinery in particular is one that it takes constant vigilance. The nature of the work processes, the nature of the heavy plant machinery, it is not unheard of for guards to become damaged, defective, or insufficient. So it really is important that one gets focus, that the employees are aware of their responsibility to make sure they identify any damaged guards and then de-escalate it accordingly. The supervisors and the managers are aware that they cannot run a piece of plant machinery without that, suitable guard in place. And even for the likes of me, the inspectors then, that I'm coming around and making sure that they are in place and challenging. So it does take constant vigilance and very strong controls. Obviously the engineering controls and the different guarding that we're using, different safety devices we're using is very, very important. And certainly even the training, information, instruction, supervision, all these things all come together, and we just cannot do enough. So I was very encouraged that the guys on the environmental health degree were actually focusing on some of the major hazards that we're faced with out there. Because I must admit, a question that I had for some of the students was very interested. Obviously, that course that you have done is fantastic. It's one that I'm actually trying to push my daughter into and trying to recommend it to her down the road. I think it's a great course. Yeah, I really am. She's 14 and she's a brain box, and I'm just thinking to myself, it's a great industry to get into. You have so many different avenues for environmental health. But I suppose the question that I had for the students was, environmental concerns, safety concerns. Where do you see yourselves going? Because personally, a safety-minded individual, safety first, health, environment is all very, very important. But safety is leading the way for me. What about some of the students? Any thoughts where you are going? Probably a wee bit unfair on the guys. I put them on the spot like that. Yes. It's a wee bit unfair on me.
Can I answer for them?
Certainly.
Maybe they're a bit shy. I just wanted to say well done, Jordan, and both on our presentation and winning the award, and Rachel Marks for runner-up, and she's here today as well. With regard to the career paths, a lot of that year group are looking for placements at the moment. So if anybody out there would, I think students are a great contribution to the industry. And it's almost like a year-long interview that you can shape somebody from an early stage into the way you like, you want the job done. So that's that. From the second year's point of view, a lot of them now are really focused on trying to get a placement. So it'd be great if anybody was interested to give me a shout on that. Okay. But I don't know if Jordan or Rachel would like to say where they think their career are going in particular, or are they a bit shy?
World is the oyster.
No, I am interested in health and safety. I am interested in health and safety. I find it really interesting, but I also like public health and food as well. There's various of the topics I'm interested in, so I'd be happy to get a placement in any sector, really.
I think that's the whole
one thing I've noticed about the waste industry. And, oh, sorry, forgive me.
Oh no, you're fine. I think there's a delay on my end. I was just saying that I think it's the placement year that takes it to sort of realise what sort of sector off the course you want to go with, and it gives you a good opportunity then the placement year to figure that out and get the experience and all the
Yeah,
different
definitely.
fields.
Okay, I suppose any more questions, or is all about passing on?
We'll pass it on to Elaine next.
Yeah, let's give everybody a break.
Thank you, David. So next we have Elaine Kelly, who is Health and Safety Manager for Westland Horticulture. Is that correct, Elaine?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
And again, it's just sort of the same sort of questions that we're interested to hear about, is how you ended up with a career in health and safety, how you've ended up as a female health and safety manager in the waste industry as well, I suppose, is another end of it. And any advice that you have for the students then?
Yeah, I was quite pleased to see that the two winners were both females. A wee bit more girl power in the industry is always a good thing. I suppose from my background is very obscure. I was very late into the industry. I worked for 20 years as an operations manager in the hospitality sector. So I worked in hotels and worked my way up from being a waitress to assistant general manager. And in my spare time, I had studied my NEBOSH general certificate and found I really enjoyed it, but had sort of parked that qualification for quite a long time until I moved house 3 years ago, and I found myself having to travel about an hour and a half to work. And then this position came up here at Westland, which rightly or wrongly advertised as a trainee health and safety officer, except I very quickly became to learn that I was the only health and safety officer on site, so there wasn't much room for training, and I was very much thrown in at the deep end with just the NEBOSH general certificate. And I remember on the first day being on site, and very lucky to have survived the first day because I was absolutely terrified. Somebody mentioned a MUPE to me, and if it wasn't for Google, I wouldn't have had one clue what they were even talking about. But I've come a long way since then, through the support of my work, which have given me great opportunities to go and study the NEBOSH diploma, so I've now finished my 3 exams, and I'm going to be submitting my dissertation hopefully at the end of May. And with the support of Jim, obviously, as well. Jim was actually my tutor for the NEBOSH diploma, which is how I'm now involved in this, because I'm slightly different from, I think, some of you other guys that are in the waste industry. But there's a certain similarity because we actually take waste in and do lots of things to it that I don't really understand. But somehow it becomes nutrients for your ground, because we are trying to move away from the production of peat products, and we're now very much becoming a peat-free industry, having achieved the DEFRA targets of 70% peat-free, which sort of takes me on very nicely. I just want to pick up on a little point there, maybe Ursula or Jordan. We are interviewing flat out for environmental students, and we just haven't been able to get anybody. But they need to sort of, we have a huge amount of environmental work going on at the moment, and we just need somebody who, yes, has the health and safety dual role there, but yes, we do need help with environmental. So I'll maybe come back to you on that, Ursula, and see if you can help me out any. And obviously, in the 3 years that I've been here, it's been quite a learning curve. As many of you can probably appreciate, we ourselves had a fatality last June. So the 18th of June 2020, involving workplace transport. So, it goes back to what we're saying about the risks with mobile plant and people and segregation. And needless to say, it was a terrible time for us. But we've learned from it, we've grown from it, and I think we've all become better people for it and a better site to work. But it ultimately remains an issue, a bit like what Robert said at the beginning. Anywhere you have mobile plant and people, you're never going to get complete segregation. We have approximately 280 lorries a day on site. It's a very busy site, and these lorry drivers have to get out of their vehicles. So, you know, it's very hard. It's been very difficult for us, very challenging time. But as I've said, it's made me a better person, made me more passionate about my job, and made me want to make sure that no one ever has to go through what that family have gone through over the almost 12 months now.
Thank you,
Hope
Elaine.
yeah, I didn't mean
It's
to
very
end
hard-hitting stories,
on a
you know, from
depressing note.
I think that's essential, though, you know, to hit home with everybody, the importance of health and safety, obviously, in the waste industry, and any industry is hearing those sorts of stories. And sort of, I think that drives, I suppose, anybody, even as a student, that you want to make sure that nobody on your sites, everybody's going home safe, and you're doing the best you can to protect people. It's obviously the core part of health and safety, and I suppose the stigma that comes along with it is we're seen as being the pukes and causing hassle and holding up time frames. But you know, whenever you hear things like that, it hit home about what it actually is about.
Well, that's it. I mean, you always think, you know, I suppose because I was quite new into the industry, I had sort of read the articles and thought, well, things like that just happened to everyone else. They never happen. They're not going to happen here. You know, we are doing everything right. So it's just a massive wake-up call, and it makes you reevaluate the role that you play. And there'll always be an uphill battle. You're never going to be the most popular person in the world, but you're doing it for the greater good. And as long as you keep that in mind, then it's a very satisfying role to be in.
Exactly. Have anybody got any questions for Elaine? Following on from that.
What would your daily duties entail in health and safety?
What I enjoy most about my job, which is probably what makes it very similar to the hotel industry, is that there's no 2 days the same. So you come in, you look at what emails need to be addressed, but very much you're out on the floor. You know, I'm very much out on site, which is why I'm sitting here with my high vis gear on me. And you're going out and you're training and you're inducting and you're making sure that everyone's compliant in what they're meant to be doing, and you're reacting to any new problems that come along. We have had a huge amount of new rules and procedures on site, so we're evolving quite rapidly, and whilst you need to make sure everyone's compliant, you also need to ensure that you're supporting all the individuals in making this journey with us, because a lot of these people were doing something day in and day out for 20 years, and we're now saying, well, you can't do that anymore. And people don't normally like change. So there's very much a supporting role, both for the people on the ground, but also obviously to support senior management in their adherence to legislation and guidance. So, and then I dabble a little bit in the environmental side of things as well, and make sure maintenance are doing what they're meant to be doing in and around guards and different things as well. So it's very, very varied, but that's what I love about it.
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
Well, it sounds very big, but if you asked me what I done all day yesterday, I could hardly even tell you, but I just know I was really busy.
I would agree with you there, Arlie, and I think anytime anybody asks me what is it you actually do, I'm like, what is it I actually do again? You know?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Elaine, for
Not
speaking
at all.
there.
I was going to ask a wee question there as well, just for yourself and David. Sometimes when you go into an organisation, the most stringent health and safety policies, etc., have been developed because of something terrible that happened, whether it be a fatality or a very bad injury or the like. And same here in our workplace as well, that we had a fatality, and following that we brought in a number of stringent health and safety measures. But I was just going to ask you about that specific case. What were there any major changes that you've made within the, I suppose, past 9 months following that?
Oh, most definitely. Our raw material yard, where we take in all our waste and peat and compost or whatever, I'll come back to, that would have been an area where all our loading shovels operate, and we all would have been out there day in, day out. Now, we were careful, there was a route to take, but there was a necessity. I was out doing inspections, the quality control people were out there taking samples from the loads coming in, and now literally we have built a brick wall so that you physically can't enter out into any area where there's loading shovels operating. And it was hugely challenging because we still need to do the inspections, we still need to get the quality checks from the loads. So we had to learn and adapt how we do that otherwise. So that's probably one of the biggest changes that we've had to overcome on site. But, you know, and I suppose, yes, of course, we were forced into making these changes, but on a personal level, not only did we want to do it for the people that are continue to work here, and we're very close to the deceased, but the brother of the deceased is our operations manager. So we owed it to him to ensure that we got ourselves to a better place. And unfortunately, it was reactionary, which caused us to get to here. But yeah, I think we are in a better place now.
Thank you, Elaine. We'll just move on then to Nicola is next on the list. I have been advised that Jim has said you're the person to speak to about careers more than anything.
Okay. Well,
as to how you've ended up.
How did I end up here?
Yeah.
In a very, very strange way. I don't know if anybody else is here. It seems sometimes like pass the parcel, and the parcel for health and safety goes about, and you have the person who actually looks at it says, what is this? Ends up with the job to start to look after health and safety. And that's how I started. I was an estimator and buyer in the construction industry. The company that I was working for was going through what's called a safety cert, which is an accreditation of a level. It's third-party level accreditation to meet the level of health and safety on sites and things like that, so that the organisations, can fully meet their legal responsibilities and keep things safe. The company that I worked with had an audit planned for about 3 years and paid £1,000 each for it. And I happened to be putting the invoice on with absolutely no health and safety background whatsoever. And he says, what's this? You've paid £3,000 and you've never had an audit. It became my responsibility to see the company through safety cert. So Elaine's friend Google, I became very friendly with them as well. Now, let me tell you where I was when this started. I thought a toolbox talk, you'll be laughing at this one, Robert. I thought a toolbox talk was, boys, have you got the right tools in your toolbox? Okay, so that's who they were sending out to talk to people inside. But I got to know through Google and a few different things and all the rest of it what it was doing. Now, the perception of the guys on the site were that the company really didn't care about their health and safety. They just wanted to be able to be on select list for your public sector jobs. And my thing as a mother hen was, oh, no, the company really want to look after your health and safety. Now, I actually managed to get this company through their CFT cert. Now, that's just through being I don't know, flying by the seat of my pants. But the awful sad thing about at the end of it was that the guys on the site were absolutely right. They were going through the CFT cert to be able to apply for jobs in the public sector. And they didn't want to improve on what we'd done in the CFT cert. So I left. And at the age of 50, okay, I went and I decided to go to get my NEBOSH general certificate. And a wee lady in that same organisation says to me, you'll never pass it. No, you'll never pass that. It's very hard to pass, but you could always go for the course. So all girls, was that a challenge or was that a challenge? So away I went to a fantastic training organisation called Training Solutions in Antrim. and I did my NEBOSH General Certificate, and I passed with flying colours, and then they kept me on there. And I ended up going to Queen's University and doing a Master's in Occupational Safety and Health. And I remember walking through at my age and thinking, oh dear, save us all. I was going through that big archway and I thought, oh, but you know what? I got the best marks of all of them. This Irish Daisy really rocked it. And I can remember when I went for my interview, they said to me, what do you really want to get out of health and safety? And I says, I want to make it sexy. The most exciting thing that we can do in this world is to keep our bodies and minds healthy, mobile, and continually improving. And everybody who's here has an opportunity to do that for other people in their workplace, and also to do it for yourself. So you've all learned it's the duty of every employer to ensure, so far as is reasonably practicable, the health and safety and welfare of all their employees. Sometimes employees think that's where it ends. The same legislation, Health and Safety at Work Act, Health and Safety at Work Northern Ireland Order, employees have a legal responsibility to take reasonable care of their own health and safety, and that of anyone who could be affected by their acts or omissions. So the employer has to do their bit, and the employee has to do their bit. The greatest challenge that we have as health and safety professionals is motivating everyone to get on board. Now, I am excited to see Jordan, see Rachel, and all the other people who put in their presentations and did all the work at the University of Ulster to get there and put in to WISHNI and to compete to become the best. But Jordan did, and happy days, and Rachel, she came second. But how wonderful, and I don't know if everybody else feels it, that to see young people who could go into the workplace and make a difference. Now, we're talking about the waste industry, but you can apply your knowledge into any industry whatsoever. Engineering, the construction industry, waste industry, food processing, retail, all of the things that you learn can be applied into different working environments. So if you open up your mind and think, what way would that apply to different kinds of industry, then that's going to open up the opportunities for employment for you in the future. So there's nowhere that you can't go. It's such an exciting thing. I wish I was young like Jordan and Rachel and all the rest of it and could have the time and the energy to make the difference that you can make. So I would say to anyone who is here, I absolutely and completely can think of no better career than to play a part in keeping people safe and well at work. And I absolutely and completely wish you all the very best in the future. And I hope you really, really do that. There's 19 of us here. What about, there's 19 people here. What about if through us talking to each other today, that we save one person from having a debilitating accident or a fatality? How exciting. Does that not make the hairs in your arm go up and think to yourself, how fantastic? And you have an opportunity. The second year at university, you're going to be out into the workplace and you're going to apply what you've learned at the University of Ulster. And then you're going to come back and finish the whole thing. And then you're going to get out there and you're going to really make a difference. Please do it. Please do it.
Thank you, Nicola. Some really inspiring, encouraging words there. Does any of the students have any questions for Nicola or anything you want to ask?
It was brilliant.
But one thing, can I just say one thing which is important? Just one thing, involving everyone in health and safety. Okay, we have our senior managers, and they're the powers that be, and they're the policy makers. They're making our policy, our statement of intent. This is how we intend to look after people. And then we've different people throughout the organisation and different levels of management. Please do not underestimate the value of every single person, be it a tradesperson, be it someone who can work a specific machine, be it someone who can clean very well, whatever that would happen to be. Involving every single person within an organisation in looking after their safety and playing their role in others' safety is going to result in fantastic changes in the workplace. So involve everybody and always respect everyone, whether they've been to university or whether they just have vocational qualifications or no qualifications and they're just good at what they do. Those are the people who understand the hazards, the things that have the potential to cause harm, and they can also help you put the controls in place, because if they have an input into how they do things, autonomy, then we've got a situation where you've got a buy-in. So involving all those people and understanding that every single person is a cog in the works, and every single cog in that works makes the organization work. But please, please, please don't fail. Go for it and really get into the industry. You can do it.
Thank you, Elaine. Jordan, did you have a question there you were going to ask, or did I imagine that?
No, she just seems really enthusiastic about the work. It'd make you want to go work in health and safety.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You achieved your aim there, Nicola.
One other thing that I will say to you, and Jim asked me to have a wee word with it, is with regards to stress and your mental health. There are many challenges ahead. We've got a lot of people who are on furlough, who haven't maybe worked for a year. Now, and no doubt, as you've been doing your lessons and things like that with regards to in university, you'll have looked at statistics of people who've been off their work for a significant amount of time, and how this can actually impact in them coming back to the workplace. So there's a lot of problems coming ahead where people haven't worked for a year, where they've been paid anyway, and they're going to find it very hard to get back into the workplace. The other part of that is with training, and you know, I come from a training background. I left my employer at the end of 2019 because with the rest of my career, what I want to do is to be more hands-on and helping organizations keep people healthy at work, both physically and mentally. So I had to do that on my own, because some of the things I want to do are maybe not commercially viable, but I am driven by health and safety and looking after that rather than the commercial and the money aspect of it. But with regards to mental health is every bit as important as physical health. And if we look after mental health, this has a knock-on effect to how our physical body and how our organs in our body actually work. So taking it all, physical and mental health and well-being, and take the whole picture. Now, I personally am on LinkedIn, so if anybody who's listening or whatever want to ask me anything or get in contact or have a private message or anything like that, please do. If there's anything that I can do to promote health and well-being and you want to talk to me about it, you're very, very welcome. And I'm going to clear off, Rachel, or nobody's ever going to get home.
Thank you, Nicola. Nicola and David and Elaine, are you okay with me sharing maybe your email addresses and contact details with the students?
Absolutely.
Just so that afterwards, if they want to get in contact for anything?
Of course.
Yeah, certainly, 100%.
I'm sorry, I would just like to add on the end of Nicola's comments there about mental health and well-being. Certainly HSE and I see that as a very topical and key area at present. We have a date for your diary, the 26th of May next month. Our mental health and wellbeing team are actually going to deliver a line managers workshop to WISHNI members, and our team are excellent. They've delivered these presentations to the quarry industry and we have had excellent feedback. But what they will do is they will actually talk you through the HSE management standards and guide you through actually preparing that stress risk assessment for your business. But not also the paperwork side of things. They want to focus on having the discussion as to how you can talk to an employee who may approach you with those sorts of issues and problems. So essentially, you'll get guided through how to carry out your risk assessment, but you'll also get that talking toolkit as well. I do really recommend that you attend the event. There's breakout group sessions. It's very interactive. The team are very, very intelligent, you know, with what they're speaking about and what they're doing. They've had great experience across different sectors in Northern Ireland. So invitations for that will be being sent out next week, and we are limited to numbers. So we will have a maximum of 25 people. So do get in there early to register your interest.
Hey, that's great. Thank you, Justine. And thank you so much, Nicola and David and Elaine. Just listening to your speech, I know a lot of it came from the heart rather than pre-prepared speeches. It made me think I want to work there. That sounds like a brilliant industry to work in. So David, hopefully your daughter will be inspired by you.
She's next on the list.
And others. And
Oh.
Nicola, just from what you were saying there as well, it just makes me think the whole school curriculum needs a revisit, and we need to be seeing things like life skills, like health and safety in the curriculum, even basic first aid. Mental health is a major area of work that we do need to be seeing more of. In terms of talking about it and how we deal with it, and how we even bring that into the workplace. And as you say, it's going to be more and more pertinent as everybody goes back into the workplaces. So they were so inspiring, that those, and we're really lucky to have had a small group actually, that we've been able to spend that wee bit more time with each of you, and thus we've actually saved time because we haven't had to all attend three separate ones. So thank you for that and for being so accommodating. So I think it's really, Rachel, unless there's anything I've missed, it's really just time to, I suppose, wrap up the awards and the day's events, and to do a big, I suppose, shout out again to everybody that was involved, and probably three of the most important people in this, and Jim would probably want to extend thanks, would be to Pete and to Rachel and to Justine. There's an awful lot of work that goes on in the background between these meetings and preparations for the meetings, and just a sheer amount of work that goes into it. So thank you to the everyone else in the Wish Forum for all the hard work gone into making these events run so smooth and successful. And congratulations to Jordan and Rachel. And again, Rachel, it was, hopefully you can hear us, Rachel. We just see you as a wee square here, but they're really the level of the work and excellence of the submissions were just brilliant. So thank you to you both. And we will need to arrange getting the certificates out. So that's a bit of the work going on in the background, is that Justine will be printing the certificates, Rachel's getting the frames, and I think I'll be arranging a handover. So whether we do that maybe in Belfast, maybe get a wee photo opportunity, or it'll be socially distanced. Either way, whatever way we'll work it, but we'll talk offline about that. And again, thank you to Michael for arranging the sponsorship, and to Robert for presenting earlier. Pete has just messaged to say there, can we let everyone know we'll get a recording of the awards up onto YouTube shortly. And like I say, I'm sure Jim will be watching that to catch up on everything he's missed. So again, thank you so much to everyone. And the next meeting, I think Justine gave us the date there, the 25th of May, and that's specifically for Wish Forum members, and that's focusing on the mental health. So I really would encourage everybody, as soon as you get the invite, because these sessions have been delivered to other industries before us, and they've been booked out very, very quickly. So as soon as you get the invitation, and if you're interested in attending, get booked on. So once again, thank you, everybody. And
thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much for stepping in there as well.
Throwing me in.
Well done.
Oh, Ursula, have you got something to add?
Yeah, I just had a wee question, thing I wanted to share with you. The Northern Ireland Safety Group are looking for Safety Person of the Year, and to me, one of the members of the Wish Northern Ireland Forum, I would probably, at least, or all of you maybe. Can I just share my screen and show it to you?
Yeah.
Let me look here. Yeah, I'll try to share my screen so that you can have a look. I'm sure if there's somebody in your organisation, you might want to.
Do you have the option now, Ursula, to share screen?
There, can you do that? Can you see that? So it's the Northern Ireland Safety Group. It's called the John Gordon Safety Person of the Year Award. And the submission, that was last year's winner, was Lisa Haycock from Farran's. And the submission, there's a little bit about John Gordon, and the submission date is the 28th of May. So it's easily Googleable. I like that word. If you think of if you want to nominate yourselves or anybody else, that's the John Gordon Safety Person of the Year award coming up.
We couldn't see that on the shared screen.
Could you not?
Maybe.
Oh, sorry. I'll try that again.
Or even if you want to email it to Rachel.
Yeah, I can circulate something as well.
Circulate.
Yeah, well, even if you just want to Google it's called the John Gordon Safety Person of the Year Award, John Gordon Award 2021, and it's and that's on the Northern Ireland Safety Group on their website. And as I say, the final dates for submissions is the 28th of May, so you have a wee bit of time to have a think about that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ursula. And I see a wee bit on the chat there. Michael is getting lunch or something for everybody.
Thanks, Michael.
He passed that to Pete, didn't he?
Just seeing that. So is this where we all sing to you, Michael, or do you want to just end it there? You're on mute.
Well, you know, if you want to sing, you know, I'm all ears here, you know. Yes. Well done to the student winners as well. Jennifer, if you can tie in with details to get your prizes. And yeah, I think it could be something that we could maybe try and work on a bit more. Of a couple of leads coming with a few waste companies in London. That were maybe the student ambassadors we could link in with that. So I'll get more details to you whenever we get them. But it's looking very promising. So.
Oh, that's great news, Michael. Great. Well, in the meantime, between now and the next meeting, if anyone has any queries or more information or things that they think that would be useful to fellow members, just fire it through, and we'll circulate that. So thanks again, everybody. Enjoy the bank holiday weekend.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
great job.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Bye.